Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and we're with another video. Today I'm going to rank the Indicator special editions. So a while ago I ranked the Indicator box sets. You can find that on the channel somewhere, probably about a year ago maybe. Obviously they've added a couple of Columbia Noir box sets since that video. So the special editions are, again, there's 15 of these. These are not full box sets, but it's either an individual film or 2 or 3 films given a bit more special treatment, even though it's not a full box set. So these are ranked pretty much on the films, even though, as we'll discover, there are some extras that are really fantastic as well. Indicator, for the ones that are kind of in demand and sell out pretty quickly, they have released standard editions, but not all of these have standard editions yet, because I don't think they've sold out. So we'll start at the bottom, which is appropriate for the 15th on the list. To nobody's surprise, I'm going to go with the Adventures set. Now this is a wonderful set. The films aren't wonderful, but the set is wonderful. So this is Adventures of a Taxi Driver, Private Eye and a Plumber's Mate. Again, as with these special editions, you do get lovely box art. So there's a ton of extras, as you can see. So to nobody's surprise, these films are not very good. But as a historical document of London at the time, they're important. As a history, as a period in the history of British cinema, it's an important set. And there's commentaries by producer director Stanley Long on all 3 films, and there's feature length interviews. There's a 4.5 hour audio interview with Stanley Long, which is really fascinating about that time in British cinema, where the kind of sex comedies actually made money. My favourite is No Sex Please We're British, with Ronnie Corbett. Who knows, maybe Indicator will release a special edition of that one day. So the films aren't great, but as a historical document, this is still a valid set. I have to say that, I'm Indicator complete. Number 14 is one of the more controversial titles in Indicator's catalogue. It's Gaspar Noé's Irreversible. I did a video on this. Again, this is lots of extras. This also includes the version of the film which is not in reverse chronology, and when you watch that film you kind of realise that Irreversible is pretty much a case of Emperor's New Clothes, because if you just watch the film in its chronological order, not really that much to it. This is the only Gaspar Noé film that I have, and the only Gaspar Noé film that I've watched, and I'm in no real rush to watch anything else by him. It's an interesting film, but again, it's a bit of an Emperor New Clothes. This commentary by Gaspar Noé, there's a 44-minute documentary about it, there's a 49-minute NFT Q&A, there's a 90-minute BFI masterclass with Gaspar Noé. So there's a ton of extras. Again, it's a wonderful release. Again, is it a film that I'm going to watch that often? Not really. So that's number 14. Number 13 is Shirley MacLaine in Sweet Charity. Now this is a good film, an enjoyable musical, great performance by Shirley MacLaine, wonderful cameo by Sammy Davis Jr. But not really going to revisit it that often. There is 3 cuts of the film on this edition, 150 minute, 149 minute, which makes all the difference, and 145 minute. The 150 is the one that has an overture as well. This is a commentary by Lee Gambin, Alexandra Heller-Nicholas and Cara Mitchell. There's a really enjoyable John Player lecture of Shirley MacLaine, which is 81 minutes. It's a really enjoyable little film, if over long, but because I'm not a huge fan of musicals, again, I'm probably not going to revisit this one very often. So that's number 13. Number 12 is Corruption with Peter Cushing. Again, this is another stacked release. This is about a doctor who's killing women to try and give his wife a new face. We've seen this before and quite frankly done better. Franjo's Les Yeux Sans Visage, for example. But again, this has 3 different cuts of the film. A UK theatrical, US theatrical, and the graphic continental version. You know what that means. There's a commentary by Peter Cushing biographer David Miller and Jonathan Rigby, which is fantastic. There's an interview with Peter Newbrook, who's a producer, which is 92 minutes. There's a wonderful Guardian interview with Peter Cushing, which is 72 minutes, which again is an essential extra in this case. We all love a bit of Peter Cushing. And there's several other extras. So a wonderful package. The film is okay, but it is one of the more mean-spirited films that Peter Cushing was ever in. But there's some really nice extras in the set. So next up is the recent release, Creatures the World Forgot. Now this is a film that objectively might not actually be better than the past few, but it's a film that I'll probably watch again. And again, they really went to town on this release, as Indicator do. And there's a commentary with Sean Hogan and Kim Newman. There's a profile of Julie Edge. There's a 25-minute piece with Jonathan Rigby about Hammers, about this film. There's a 26-minute piece with David Huckvale talking about the music, and David Huckvale's always entertaining when he does the Hammer music pieces in these on the Hammer box sets, etc. There's 3 Children Film Foundation by the director John Chaffee, and Vic Pratt does commentaries on those Children's Film Foundation. Vic Pratt also appears in front and behind the camera in the Adventures extras, if you want to check them out. So this is it's a daft film, but it is actually quite watchable, despite its weirdness. So that's the Creatures the World Forgot. At number 10, is that? Number 9, Force 10 from Navarone, the sequel to Guns of Navarone. This has 2 cuts of the film, again, Indicator giving this film special treatment. It's your classic Sunday afternoon, switch the brain off type of sequel, Robert Shaw is wonderful, as always. Harrison Ford in an early roles, Carol Weathers, Edward Fox, Richard Keel, Alan Bates. Who else in this? Barbara Bach. Directed by Guy Hamilton, who would obviously do, not obviously, but would do Bond films. This is just daft Sunday afternoon fun, but it is extremely rewatchable. Next up is the latest release. It's Robin Hood at Hammer. These are 3. Well, the front says 2 tales, but you get a bonus because you get a children's film foundation. Lovely sky blue artwork on this one. These are 2 really enjoyable sort of Sherwood Forest and a challenge for Robin Hood. And Peter Cushing appears in one of these films, as does Oliver Reed. And they're just really enjoyable. And again, lots of care has been put into this release by Indicator. There's commentaries by Barry Forshaw and Kim Newman, and Kevin Lyons and Jonathan Rigby. There's an interview with Terence Fisher, which is wonderful. There's a John Player lecture, The Hammer Forum from 1971, which has contributions from Michael Carreras, Peter Cushing, Terence Fisher, James Needs, Anthony Newland Keyes and Jimmy Sangster. There's a interview with Sidney Cole. There's an interview with C.M. Pennington Richards, who's the director of the second film. There's a piece on Robin Hood throughout the years. There's a piece by Jonathan Rigby on these films. Yeah, it's Kim Newman that does the Sherwood on screen, which is fantastic, about the history of Robin Hood in the cinema, basically, and television. This one is absolutely packed, and yes, you also get Keith Chegwin in the children's film Robin Hood Jr., which is actually worth a wee look. So this is a wonderful set. Again, are these amazing films? No, they're not. Are they endlessly rewatchable? Yes, they are. So that's Robin Hood at Hammer. Next, it's actually a run of films with Dennis Hopper. So the first one up is The Last Movie. This was the legendary disaster that Dennis Hopper made in 1971 after Easy Rider, where he went down to Mexico and did lots of drugs and alcohol and somehow put a film together. The film's actually quite interesting, if not completely successful. This special edition is a 4K. It's got a 91-minute interview with Dennis Hopper. It has a Dennis Hopper introduction, but the really wonderful extras from 2012, which is 50 minutes, which is a documentary that Alex Cox did about The Last Movie. There's a 30-minute documentary about Dennis Hopper. Yes, a 32-minute interviews with the Peruvian cast as he went further than Mexico. There's on-set footage. There's an interview with Dick Cavett, or an excerpt of that. And obviously all these limited editions generally have wonderful, nice booklets. So that's The Last Movie. Not a successful movie in any stretch of the imagination, but certainly a fascinating one. And then next up is Dennis Hopper starring in Night Tide with Curtis Harrington. This edition sold out pretty quickly, but there is a standard edition available. And again, this is a 2-disc with lots of special features. This is a creepy little film about Dennis Hopper, who's a sailor who comes back and gets involved with a woman who may or may not be a sea monster. It's the run-of-the-mill story, we've all heard it before. This is a commentary with Harrington and Hopper, another commentary with Tony Raines, then a 25-minute interview with Harrington. There's a 2-episode of David Duvall's series devoted to Curtis Harrington, so that's 57 minutes. And disc 2 has a bunch of short films by Curtis Harrington. So an extensive set with lots of little curiosities, and a really nice, underrated, creepy little film. What more could you ask for? So that's Night Tide. And last on the Dennis Hopper Indicator Special Editions is Mad Dog Morgan. I think this was one of the quickest of these special editions to sell out. Again, I think Indicator released a standard edition fairly quickly afterwards. This is Philip Morris film set in Australia, or Tasmania really, about the famous Mad Dog Morgan, the outlaw, and Dennis Hopper, who they had to wrangle for most of the film as the lead. He overcomes a ridiculous beard to cause all manner of havoc. It's a beautiful film, beautifully shot, and again they corralled a fantastic performance out of Hopper. This has 2 cuts of the film, 103 minutes and 95 minutes, and this is restored from a 4K scan. This is a commentary with Philip Mora and film critic Jake Wilson from 2019. It's also got a commentary with Philip Mora from 2009. And then the behind the scenes from 1976, which is 25 minutes long. There's a 34-minute piece from 2019 where Mora reflects on working with Hopper. There's a 29-minute conversation with Mora and Hopper, 2008, talking about the film. There is a 67-minute documentary about Australian cinema featuring parts from Mad Dog Morgan. There's an interview with the DP, there's an interview with the associate producer, there's a radio interview with Philip Mora from 1976. There's a piece on revisiting the locations of the film. So again, another nice book as well. This is an absolutely stacked release, and that's why it's number 6. Number 5 is Road Games with Stacey Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis. This is just a fun serial killer road thriller. Before The Hitcher. Yep, I think it was before The Hitcher. You can correct me in the comments. This is in Australia as well. And this is just a wonderful, enjoyable genre film. Again, nice artwork and absolutely stacked with special features. There's commentaries. This is from a 4K scan. There's actually 3 commentaries with the director Richard Franklin and historian Perry Martin. There's a commentary with the cinematographer and costume designer and production secretary and filmmaker Mark Hartley, and there's a commentary with writer and programmer Anna Bogoskaya and Olivia Howe. There's a 20-minute archival documentary about the making of. There's a 14-minute interview with Stacey Keach from 2019 about the film. There's an archival interview with Richard Franklin, which is 26 minutes. There's an audio interview with Richard Franklin 2001 and Stacey Keach from 2016 and Stunt Coordinator 2016, which is 33 minutes long. Again, there's more from the same documentary that features in Mad Dog Morgan. 64 minutes about Australian cinema. And there's more extras than I care to read out. Again, another wonderful release and a wonderful fun little film. So number 4, one of the older releases, this is Spine number 156, Alan Clark's Scum, which has the TV version and the theatrical version. Still difficult, still challenging, like pretty much all of Alan Clark's films. I really need to watch more of that BFI box set that I've had for ages. This is Ray Winstone's finest performance. He's pretty much almost been repeating it ever since. This is a 2K scan. The commentary with Ray Winstone. It was a 20-minute interview with actor Mick Ford. There's an 16-minute piece with actor Ray Burdiss. Perry Benson has a 12-minute interview. The DP has got an 18-minute piece. The associate producer, Martin Campbell, on remaking the teleplay for the big screen. Executive producer's got a 32-minute piece. There's a 30-minute piece with the editor talking about Alan Clark, because unfortunately we can't talk to Alan Clark himself. Casting director, there's an absolute ton of extras in this release as well. Of course, nice box with a nice booklet. So that's number 4, and that is Scum. Number 3 is another recent release that I did a random review on, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Burt Lancaster and Frank Perry's The Swimmer. Again, lovely release, and I went into the extras. And this is Spine number 46, which was always the space and the indicator numbers, if you're that way inclined and you're complete. But go check out my video on The Swimmer. That's number 3. Number 2 is a real gem and really sums up why Indicator are so good. And that's the Pemini organisation, which is a short-lived British production company that didn't make that many films. We have 3 of them here. We have Hunted from 1972, which is only 42 minutes long. Assassin from 1973, which is 82 minutes long. And Moments from 1974, which is 93 minutes long. And Hunted and Assassin are both absolutely fantastic. Memories, I would say, is solid, but it is the weakest of the 3. Just tremendous little films, and again, absolutely stacked with extras. There's commentaries in all 3 films by Pemini co-founder and creator Peter Crane and Sam Dunn. There's an interview with Wolfgang Szusicki, the famous DP. Again, there's pieces on Crane talking about Pemini. There's far too many extras to read out, and it would just be me reading names out. This is an essential Indicator release. I believe it is still available because it is not that famous. I'd never heard of them before the announcement by Indicator that they're releasing them. And as I say, Hunted and Assassin are absolutely fantastic. Edward Woodward and Ian Henry. Just absolutely wonderful set, and again, really sums up what Indicator are all about. But that leaves number 1, which is their earliest special edition, and that is Night of the Demon. That wonderful artwork. This is just a wonderful set of a wonderful film. Probably, I would say, my favourite film out of these 15 special edition releases. Dana Andrews and Niall McGuinness. Niall McGuinness in a don't think he was ever better or got the chance to be better. And this has 4 presentations of the film, so none of this 2 cuts of the film nonsense that other special editions have. This is 4 cuts of the film. This has original full-length pre-release, and it has a UK theatrical, the US theatrical, and the US reissue, and they vary between 96 and 82 minutes long. This has a commentary by Tony Earnshaw, a video essay explaining the different versions, the 2007 making of, which is fantastic. There's audio, archival interviews with cast and crew. Christopher Frayling does a piece on it, so it must be fantastic because Christopher Frayling, or Sir Christopher Frayling, apologies, he does a piece on the film. Kim Newman obviously does a piece on the film called Sinister Signs. Ramsey Campbell, the author, he talks about the film. Scott McQueen has a nice piece on the release history of the film. It's just David Huckvale does a piece on the music. It's just an absolutely fantastic release. This was really before I was a huge Indicator fan, but this was one of those titles that made me completely convert to Indicatorism. Just a tremendous set. Again, this goes for crazy money on secondary markets, but again they released a standard edition. Just a tremendous film and an absolutely gorgeous presentation of that film. So that is a very quick ranking of the 15 special edition by Indicators. Not quite a full box set, but bigger than the standard limited edition releases. So thanks very much for watching. Please rank your 15 special edition Indicator releases, and hopefully you'll join me again for more videos. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.